So high quality suspension setups can get very expensive, but they don't always have to be. Sometimes with our help, you can turn a simpler setup into something very competent. So one of those setups that's very common is the Ohlins Road and Track, or DFV as it's sometimes referred to. So these are pretty popular. They fit a neat little pocket of the market where, the racing isn't too intense. You still need performance and they're good for the road, like they say, road and track. What we can do is, in the event that you have like this S2000 setup and you want it resprung, say, comes with usually fairly soft spring rates for the track. You want to spring it so that it's competent on track. Well, is the valving up to par? We have a dyno. We can go through all this and figure out, okay, is what you're doing with this car, the spring rates, or what you describe your setup to us, and we can tell you kind of where you should go, or if you truly do need to step up to like a Nitron or something else that we usually prefer. It's just a little bit higher price point. And for the S2000, usually like a 700, 600 is about where I would kind of limit these without having some kind of revalve work done. These can still serve a purpose if you already got them and they're wore out. We can rebuild them. So that's part of what we do. As long as you haven't trashed them and there's no track damage, where you have to order a whole new unit, they're rebuildable. So here's a strut that we had broken down, and it's got a pretty standard piston setup, but the DFV is this little unit down here, and it's underneath the main shim stack. It's got its own set of shims and stuff that it has inside it and on the outside of it here. And it really controls high frequency stuff. It's not so much high speed because there's only 4 2mm holes in it, so it really doesn't do what people sometimes think it does. It also has an effect on the very, very low speed movement just because of how it's set up. So it's not just for bumps. We can change all this stuff and make it into something a little different depending on what you're doing. There's limitations to that. So like on this E90 strut setup, it's designed to work with the factory top mounts and rubber bushings and stuff like that. So you'll have to, get an aftermarket camber plate, which we can also provide for most of the Ohlins Road and Track setups. If, we dyno your setup, and, we do keep a database of dynos, but, Ohlins does update their products from time to time. So it's always best if you already have a setup and it's not brand new to let us dyno it, see what's really in there, and then go from there. See what spring rates we'd recommend and stuff like that. Essentially, the similarities between these and like a higher end race setup is that, they're the standard monotube. Often they're a 46mm piston, unless it's the strut, which they have a smaller one just because the tube it's always inverted, and so it needs a smaller piston. But in general, these are well made for the price point. They're not what, like I said, like some of the higher end race setups are, that you just lose features, but they do the job that they're intended often very well. I think there's some exceptions where there's, they may be a little bit less track oriented in some applications than others, but those are the ones where we can help the most. So we can, take a look at it, respring and revalving, those kinds of setups. So it is possible to compete with a higher end brand on a budget. You do lose a few things, but you can get close with our help. So if you're interested in having anything looked at, having your setup dynoed, figuring out where you are and where you want to go, and you need to keep within a certain budget, just let us know and we'll help you out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.